Hello students, welcome to Law Excellence YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about detailed news analysis of the Hindu newspaper. So sorry students, today my voice is not good, so try to adjust for today or a couple of days. Okay, so in this news analysis, we are going to discuss about editorial analysis as well as we will discuss about the daily news analysis as well. Okay. So first, as usually, the story of the day. So her name is Chandrakala IAS, and she was very popular for taking action against her, subordinates who are involving corruption, or else politicians who are involving in corruption. She is very popular for bold kind of, she's very brave in functioning her duties, and she became very popular when she expressed about anger on the substandard quality of construction work, and even so she confronted local politicians as well. While she was working at Meerut, students of various schools they created the world record of making the longest painting on a single day, and she played very instrumental role in that feat as well. She became a symbol of women empowerment over the period of time. So people like this can show a lot of difference in a society. In today's news analysis, we are going to discuss about three detailed editorial analysis. First one is multilateralism post COVID 19. Second one, maternal health matters. Third one, so relationship with India and China. So remaining followed with the daily news analysis. Students, so when we discuss about the first one, that is the multilateralism. So after the COVID-19, what kind of multilateralism you can expect? So this is related to GS paper 2 in your syllabus, regional and global groupings, dimension, status of multilateral organizations after the COVID-19. So in this article, we would like to know so how the recent disputes between countries affect the international institutions. For example, you know that so America is accusing the Russia regarding the open space treaty, and America threatened to exit from the WHO as well. In this kind of scenario, we will discuss about the future of the multilateral organization. The lesson plan include first we will discuss about what is the multilateralism. Students, multilateralism is a organization which involve two or more nations. So it has a long history, especially this multilateralism. It became growing after the World War II. After World War II, various multilateral organizations like UNO and WTO and NATO, these kind of multilateral organizations, they came up. Then, so regarding the introduction, students, COVID-19, it has shown ineffectiveness of the multilateral organizations. Multilateral organizations, they were unable to show the coordination between the nations, and they were unable to cooperate with each other as well. However, some countries like USA, they're demanding changes in these multilateral organizations by saying that we will go out if you don't carry the reforms. So these kind of threats are there for the multilateral organizations. How multilateral organizations survived such kind of threats? For example, students, UNESCO, Human Rights Council, even though USA exit from these organizations, they're still able to survive. In the same way, UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, it is still continuing despite the withdrawal of the USA, and even the WHO also. So still surviving even though there are threats from USA. That means a single country, it may affect somehow the international organization, but it will not affect that international organization in such a manner that its survival will be in question. Next, is China going to dominate the multilateral institutions? Students, so China is heading four multilateral organizations heading by China at the moment, and China is contributing for around 10% of the UN budget as well. But still, China is not able to in a position to control the multilateral organization in a unilateral way. Even though China has proposed this One Belt, One Road, Belt and Road initiative, still it is in the nascent stage. So China still has very limited scope in controlling the multilateral organizations. Students, in this changing scenario, what are the opportunities before India, especially in the international organizations? Students, India can become a global partner through through emphasis on various factors. For example, India can ask for strengthening of sites convention on international trade in endangered species, because as the endangered species are transporting illegally, even a lot of zoonotic diseases also transporting. So India can ask for the strict implementation of the sites. Even India can promote the yoga. Already we promoted the yoga, and we can be in the international leader as well. And India can encourage its pharmaceutical products, so it can become the pharmacy of the world. And India can strengthen the biological weapon convention, BWC. So by that way, so the guidelines of the WBC, so BWC will be implemented very strictly, and countries will take care about this kind of biological weapons, because there are certain theories that corona might be a biological kind of weapon. And even India can request for the greater coordination among the nations. Even India recently proposed about the global south in the non-alignment movement. So in these are the opportunities before India, and India still can play a crucial role in a global platform. So the conclusion point, students: multilateral organizations still they survive despite threat from USA. Also, it is unlikely that China will overtake these multilateral organizations. In this context, whatever the opportunities before India, India should utilize them, and India should move forward to become a significant partner in global politics. So in this article, what we discussed about what is the meaning of multilateralism and introduction remarks, then how multilateral institutions still survived the threats, and is China going to dominate the multilateral institutions? Then what are the opportunities before India? And we discussed about the conclusion. This is about today's Hindu article regarding the multilateralism post COVID-19. Then next we are going to discuss about maternal health matters. Students, this article is related to GS paper 2 of UPSC syllabus, and we are going to discuss about what are the impacts of COVID-19 on pregnant women. In this article, learning objectives are so to know about various schemes, especially targeting the pregnant women. Our lesson plan is going to be like what is the issue present, and what are the government initiatives such as Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, Janani Suraksha Yojana, and what is the impact of COVID-19 on pregnant women. And finally, we will discuss about conclusion. The issue is, students, the issue is due to this COVID-19 crisis, most of the pregnant women, they were facing problems regarding the essential services such as abortion as well as childbirth. Even due to lack of hospitalization at proper time, even some women they lost life. For example, recently a pregnant woman died in Noida as she was turned away, refused by private and government hospitals. These kind of situations, they are raising questions. If this is the situation in a metropolitan city, what about the condition in the remote corners of a country? So here, first we would like to know what are the government initiatives taken over last 15 years. Students, over the last 15 years, government promoting in well-being of the maternal health. So India's maternal mortality, students, maternal mortality will be calculated for 1 lakh, live births. For every 1 lakh childbirths, how many women they are losing lives in this childbirth, that is conducted, that is taken as maternal mortality rate. Students, India maternal mortality rate is 122 per 1 lakh live births. Okay, and it was in 2011 it was 167. So we reduced from 167 to 1 so 113. So we reduced from 167 to 122. This is a significant reduction. In the same way, students, what are some welfare programs for pregnant women? For example, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. So this is a direct benefit transfer scheme under which the cash benefit will be provided to the pregnant woman, and the money will directly come into the bank account of the woman. In the same way, students, in that scheme, cash benefit of 5,000 rupees will be given to mother in 3 installments. And for that, the mother has to do, she has to register her pregnancy, and she has to undergo all the antenatal checkup, pregnancy tests, and she has to register her childbirth, as well as she has to complete the first cycle of the vaccination of the first living child. So once all these are completed, as the process is going on, so mother will get the money. So these kind of incentive schemes will provide the healthy lifestyle across the country. So this scheme is centrally sponsored scheme and it is executed by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Then what about this Janani Suraksha Yojana? This is to promote the institutional delivery. Institutional delivery means like encouraging the child delivery in hospitals. Okay, so it is 100% centrally sponsored scheme, students. Its main objective is reducing the maternal mortality rate as well as infant mortality rate. Basically, it is to promote the safe motherhood and it is a part of national health mission as well. So this scheme also provides cash incentive to ASHA workers as well for promoting the institutional delivery. Now we will see. So far we discussed about what is the issue and what are the government initiatives in reducing the maternal mortality rate. So now we are going to discuss about what are the impact of the COVID-19 on pregnant women. Students, pregnant women are at high risk of the COVID-19 because most of the healthcare workers, as they were busy in preventing this COVID-19, these hospitals were burdened. Already they are facing burden with these COVID-19 patients. And even the government guidelines also, how to handle the pregnant women, they came very lately. Because of all these factors, so pregnant women, they affected a lot. And the pregnant women who had the miscarriage or who are looking for the abortions, they faced a serious problem. After the government guidelines were released, hospitals are agreed to take the pregnant women, but still they have to take the COVID-19 certificate. Even that also it will take one day. So because of all these factors, because of lack of planning about the caring of pregnant women during this COVID-19 led to pregnant women face numerous problems. That is our conclusion. So the issue we discussed and what are the government initiative, how this COVID-19 affected the pregnant women, and what is the conclusion about what are the problems faced by pregnant women, we discussed, friends. Next, history, the standoff and policy worth rereading. So this is regarding the policy between India and China. So this is related to GS paper 1, post independence consolidation, as well as GS 2, India and its neighborhood relations. So we will see here historical background of India-China dispute and what is the three-pronged strategy, as well as what is the China five-finger strategy. Here the learning objectives are what are the reasons behind India-China dispute and to know about India's three-pronged strategy. First, we are going to discuss about the issue, students. Here, what is the issue? The issue is recently there is a conflict between India and China, especially in Galwan Valley as well as around the fingers of Pangsu. In this image, you can see what I mean to fingers. Here you can see finger 1, 2, 3, like our palm. For our palm, we have 5 fingers. In that way, these mountain ridges, these generally we call them as fingers. Up to the finger 4, India can patrol. And now, Chinese, they are not allowing Indian patrolling till the 4th finger itself as well. So, because whatever the fingers, Indian side, it don't have much beach, much coastline. So, base to establish base there is very difficult. Whereas for Chinese side, so this like beach area is very wide one, so they can easily establish the base. So they are having the strategic control. So this is the issue around the Galwan Valley as well as Sangpo. Now in this article, so this I think you understood about these fingers of the lake. Okay, lake fingers. And students, so apart from this, so first we will discuss about what is the Mao's five-finger policy. Mao is ideological figure in China. He proposed five-finger policy. What is that five-finger policy? Students, Mao five-finger policy is all about first one, liberating. So giving so much freedom to Ladakh. Like in this photo you can see. So Ladakh, giving so much freedom to Ladakh. Then liberating the Tibet, and then so liberating the Nepal, liberating the Sikkim, and liberating the Bhutan. So these are the five principles of the Mao students. These are the five principles of Mao. So first one is liberating Ladakh, liberating Tibet, liberating Nepal, liberating Sikkim, Bhutan, and Arunachal Pradesh. Of course, Tibet later not included because Tibet became a part of China. Now they concentrate on five fingers. First one is Ladakh, second one is Nepal, third one is Sikkim, fourth one Bhutan, and fifth one is Arunachal Pradesh. So helping these areas to get independence. So this is what the Mao's five finger policy. So because these five fingers are very closely attached to India, China always encouraged like any independency in these areas. That is the five finger policy. I hope now you understood what is the Mao's five finger policy. Students, after Dalai Lama escaped from China to India, and after India given refugee status to Dalai Lama, so China became aggressive, and China became started demanding about self-determination in Kashmir, and it allowed the Naga rebels and Mizo rebels into China for a refugee purpose and training purpose, and finally it led to 1962 India-China war. So to counter the Mao's five-finger policy, India followed the three-pronged strategy. What is the three-pronged strategy? First one is building the infrastructure and governance. Students, so Indian government on a pilot basis, they started Indian Frontier Administrative Service (IFAS) for operating this Arunachal Pradesh and other areas, and they created a special desk in the Ministry of External Affairs for so the officers who will take care about this NEFA region. However, in 1968, this IFAS Indian Frontier Administration Services role we given to Army. Now we have to reconsider that. Second one, by making series of agreements with our neighborhood, for example Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. By making agreements with these countries, we can install a confidence in these countries. By that way, these countries will cooperate with us in future. For example, if you take with Bhutan, students, with Bhutan we made a treaty of perpetual peace and friendship in 1949, and we revised that in 2007. But in case of Nepal, which we made the peace and friendship treaty in 1950, still we were not revised, and still so there were a lot of tensions between India and Nepal. So we have to revise gradually. We have to acknowledge how our partner country is growing, and based on that, our agreement should be changed as well. Next, regarding the Tibet policy, students, India given shelter to Dalai Lama, and still Dalai Lama is a leader for lakhs of Tibetans. After Dalai Lama, even though Karmapa Lama, so he announced as a successor, but he majorly lives in USA. In this kind of situation, China will force its own choice on the community. That means China may nominate one Buddhist monks to lead the Buddhist monks across the world. So we have to be careful about the Tibet policy as well. The final conclusion is China, following the five finger policy of Mao, and India reacted with three-pronged strategy, that is building infrastructure and a series of treaties with the neighbors, as well as Tibet policy. So we have to revise our three-pronged strategy according to changing conditions. So next article. So from here onwards, we will discuss about the daily news analysis, students. Is China peaceful development over? So China adopted peaceful development policy over the decades, but now most of the countries, they realized about China's development strategy, and now most of the countries, they became hostile. They become more or less enemies to China. Why? First, we have to know about China's peaceful development policy. What is this PDP, and why China having dispute with its neighbors? First, you have to understand, students, China not only have dispute with India. Okay, so apart from India, China is having dispute with other neighborhood nations as well. For example, regarding the Thailand. Okay, China Air Force, they trespassed into the Taiwanese airspace, as well as China having conflict with Malaysia, Vietnam as well. Along with these, even China having conflict with Japan, Indonesia, in South China Sea as well as East China Sea. Students, why this kind of China became so aggressive? So first we have to understand that what China has adopted regarding the peaceful development policy over the years. First, you have to understand, for last couple of decades, China started investing a lot in foreign countries, especially for example in the form of BRI and some other initiatives. So while giving that money to these nations, these nations were forced into the debt trap, and these countries, they were started, like accepting whatever the Chinese demands in the name of this debt diplomacy. This process, this process lies, and this process, because of this process, the countries, they realize that China is, so not helping in economic way. So China is, so it is trying to take advantage of the weak position of those countries. Because of this, so now China started, as China invested a lot of investment in other countries. In that process, China built their military as well as navy bases. For example, they built navy base in Sri Lanka and in some other countries as well, and Djibouti, and all these things. When China helped to those countries, now China started using them against those countries, as well as using them to influence its area. That resulted into increased naval presence in Indian Ocean, and even Chinese presence increased in the state of Malacca as well as East China Sea. All these actions, they raised insecurities to the nations to which China helped. Now China is perceived as untrustworthy nation. Now, once all these countries are realized that China is untrustworthy nation, now China feeling that there is no need to use the peaceful word, because it has become so only decorative instrument. Now China is showing its true colors. I hope you understood about the China policy over the period of time. Next, students. So the next one is regarding with China, India will have to Atmanirbhar. The Galvan Valley incident is a game changer post to the idea of Wuhan spirit. So in this, the learning objective is the strategic choice India has with China to achieve the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. So for the self self growth, and to to show what India is. For that, what are the options before India? So we will discuss what are the strategic choices and decisions for India in order to keep China under check. So first thing you have to understand, students. So India has maintained balanced friendship with China, both for and against the Chinese group. How India is a member of China's backing group, for example, RIC, BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and even India is also a member of countering platforms like Quad and lot of and participating in the Malabar exercise. So India is maintained balanced relationship both for and as well as against China. So this kind of approach is keeping China always in check. That means India is not too aggressive to China and not too friendly to China. And China is the only country with which India had a leader level informal summit, like we had Wuhan summit in 2018 after the Doklam issue has been done. And there we discussed that the strategic guidance to their militaries, so will be provided by both the countries, and the matters at the borders will be de-escalated. In the same way, Mahabalipuram summit, where both the countries decided that so dispute across the border should not be encouraged, they should be de-escalate, and if there are any differences, they should be solved. And so both countries agreed to establish sister state relations between Tamil Nadu of India as well as Fujian province of China. So while we are doing this kind of things, and India participated in the groupings which are opposing the China as well. So India is indirectly saying to China as well that we have plenty of options. While India leveraging its options, so India should you know like give a lesson to China that we have plenty of options if things go wrong. This is how India can become Atmanirbhar with respect to China. Next, AIIB clears 750 million loan to India for COVID-19. So here, what we are going to discuss about, first, global institutional support to revive Indian economy. So global institutes are supporting to India. So what is AIIB? And to know the support from AIIB to revive Indian economy, like I said, how this AIIB is helping to Indian economy. First one, how much they announced the help? $750 million. To what? like due to COVID crisis, a lot of people will experience the poverty. So to tackle the economic impact of the COVID, so this money is going to be useful. And despite the tension between India and China, the China leading AIIB, they came forward and they given loan to India. So here you have to understand about what is AIIB. So AIIB stands for Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. It's a multilateral development bank. So it was established in 2015, students. And so membership in this organization is open to every country, even for like non-sovereign country, that means countries without independence, for example Taiwan and like Hong Kong, they can also get membership, assuming that their home country is a member. For example, in case of like any small island, it want to get membership, so if it is under control of any other country, that country should be a member in that organization. For this bank, China is the largest contributor. It contributed around $50 billion, half of the initial capital. Second biggest contributor is India. India contributed around $8.4 billion, and India's share in the bank is 7.6% after Chinese share. Now, this bank also can lend outside Asia, providing that support will help to connect to China, as well as it will help to some global development as well, which help to Asia. Now what you have to understand is India is the largest beneficiary of AIIB financing for infrastructure projects. So this is about the AIIB and what is India's role in the AIIB, what kind of help done by the AIIB. Next article regarding the Indian banking sector, students. So what government is saying about Indian banking sector? So finance minister is saying that the banks should cut the non-core expenditure. Non-core expenditure. Okay. So what is the non-core expenditure? We will discuss. Okay. So what the finance minister is saying that finance minister requested the banks to cut the non-core expenditure, that is unnecessary expenditure, by 20%. By that way, banks can save the money. Why this has been ordered? Recently, there was in news that Punjab National Bank, they spent around 1.34 crores on buying cars to the staff and everyone. So and publicity costs are increasing. So what the government told that banks were asked to avoid this avoidable expenditure and utilize the funds to core sectors. What are the core sectors in the Indian economy? There are 8 core sectors in the Indian economy. You know that, like coal, steel, fertilizer and electricity, cement and natural gas, and refinery products and crude oil. These core sector, like they carry the share of around 40% in the index of industrial production, IIP. Okay, so this is about today's newspaper analysis, and we will end the video with 2 MCQs. First one, consider the following statement about Asian Development Bank. China holds the highest share in the bank, followed by India. Okay, majority of the investment of the ADB goes to private sector in those countries where private sector strength and participation is low. So these are the 2 statements. Observe carefully. Next, SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It is a platform where India and China work together. In this context, select which among the following neighboring countries of India also the members of SCO: Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal. So it is asking about, so what are the other countries in SCO apart from India? So this is about today's analysis regarding the Hindu, students. Both the editorial analysis as well as daily news analysis we covered in this video. So if you feel this is useful to you, then please like this video, students. And if you feel this help to your friends, share to your friends as well. If you did not subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. See you in next video, students.